The day I became the most despised man in Green Acres was the same day I became its most untouchable. 300. That's what Margaret Hensley and her homeowners association slapped me with for hosting a campfire with my son, grieving the loss of his mother. What they didn't know was that I had 5 million reasons to fight back, and enough grit to burn brighter than any fire they tried to snuff out. If you're watching this from your tractor shed to dodge those soul-crushing HOA meetings, drop a comment telling me where you're hiding. I'm Caleb Warrick, and until 3 months ago, I was living what most would call a rancher's dream. I'd spent 20 years building a logistics empire, streamlining supply chains for agricultural giants, before selling my company for enough to retire at 45. But life doesn't give a damn about your bank account. My wife, Eliza, lost her fight with leukemia last year, leaving me to raise our 12-year-old son, Jonah, alone. The grief was a weight neither of us could shake. Jonah stopped talking much, and I was drowning in memories of Eliza's laugh. The only thing that brought us back, even for a moment, was our campfires. We'd sit under the stars, roasting marshmallows, just like we did with Eliza before her illness stole her from us. Those fires were more than warmth. They were our tether to her, a ritual that kept her alive in our hearts. So when I decided we needed a new start, I searched for a place where we could keep those fires burning. Green Acres seemed like the answer. A rural community with rolling fields, good schools, and a 20-acre forest of oak and pine, right next to our 50-acre ranch. Forest was perfect for our campfires, a quiet sanctuary where Jonah and I could heal. The realtor talked up the community's charm, but mentioned the HOA in passing. It's low-key, she said, just for shared roads and aesthetics. I should have caught the hesitation in her voice when she added, Margaret Hensley, the HOA president, is particular about community standards. I'd dealt with tough negotiators in boardrooms. How bad could one rural bureaucrat be? I found out on a crisp October evening. Jonah and I had set up a small campfire in our backyard, a stone ring pit well away from the forest's edge. The flames crackled softly, and Jonah was laughing. Actually laughing for the first time in months. His face lit by the glow as he toasted a marshmallow to golden perfection. It was the kind of moment you hold on to, the kind that makes you think, maybe you'll be okay. Then a voice cut through the night like a blade. What do you think you're doing? Margaret Hensley strode toward us, late 50s, in pristine riding boots and a tailored jacket, clutching a tablet like it was a badge of authority. Her face was pinched, as if she'd caught us setting the town hall ablaze. I stood, wiping my hand. Evening, I said, keeping it civil. Just a campfire with my son. I'm Caleb Warrick. Moved in 2 months ago. I offered my hand, but she ignored it, her fingers flying across her tablet. Mr. Warrick, open fires are prohibited within 500 feet of the community forest. HOA violation, she said it with the weight of someone announcing a royal decree. I'm Margaret Hensley, president. The fine is 300. Jonah froze, his marshmallow stick trembling in his hand. I felt my chest tighten. There's got to be a mistake, I said, voice steady. The realtor said campfires were fine, and we're on our property. Margaret's smile was colder than the autumn air. The rule changed last month. All residents were emailed. I checked later. No email. Not even in spam. Why the ban? I asked, nodding toward the forest. We're careful, and this pit's regulation safe. She glanced at our fire pit with a sneer. Fire risks and smoke disturbing neighbors' pastoral views. Not everyone wants to smell your charred marshmallows while enjoying their evening breeze. Her tone wasn't about safety. It was disdain, like we were trespassers in her pristine kingdom. Jonah's eyes welled up, and I saw the light in him dim. This was our sanctuary, a flicker of Eliza's memory. And Margaret was dousing it with her smug authority. We'll pack up, I said, arm around Jonah's shoulders. Send me the fine and updated rules. She smirked, victorious. Check your email. Mr. Warrick, we don't tolerate ignorance. As she walked away, her boots silent on the manicured grass, Jonah whispered, Dad, why's she so mean? We weren't hurting anyone. I didn't have an answer that wouldn't break his heart further. Some people love rules more than people. Kiddo, I said, helping him douse the fire. That night, I couldn't sleep. Margaret's sneer, Jonah's tears, they lit a spark in me. I started digging into the HOA, pulling up their website, bylaws, anything I could find. What I uncovered was the kindling for a fight I didn't know I'd wage. Margaret had ruled Green Acres for a decade, her farm-to-table business thriving on the community's rustic charm. Her social media was a gallery of forest picnics, complete with bonfires untouched by her own fire risk rules. A buried clause in the HOA documents caught my eye. The forest wasn't theirs. It was leased from Horizon Land Group, and that lease was expiring soon. If this story's got you fired up, smash that like button. Trust me, you won't want to miss how this spark becomes a blaze. What do you do when the rules only apply to some? I found allies and a secret that could burn Margaret's plans to ash. The $300 fine for our campfire wasn't just a slap on the wrist. It was a declaration of war from Margaret Hensley, Green Acres' self-appointed queen. That night, as Jonah slept, I sat at my kitchen table, laptop glowing, digging into the HOA's underbelly. What I found wasn't just petty bureaucracy. It was a calculated scheme, and I was about to light a match under it. If you're sneaking this video in your barn to avoid another HOA lecture, comment your hiding spot below. This chapter's gonna keep you hooked. Margaret had ruled Green Acres for 10 years. Her farm-to-table business, Hensley Harvest, milking the community's rustic charm for profit. Her Instagram was a curated lie, lavish forest picnics with bonfires blazing. Captioned, "Celebrating our heritage." No fines for her, no citations for fire risks or pastoral view disturbances. The hypocrisy was galling, but a deeper dive into the HOA bylaws revealed something bigger. The 20-acre forest, our sanctuary for campfires, wasn't owned by the HOA. It was leased from Horizon Land Group, a developer. And that lease expired in 2 months. Margaret's sudden campfire ban wasn't about safety. It was about control. The next morning, I ran into Clara Thompson, a retired land surveyor, while she walked her collie past my ranch. Her silver hair was pulled back, her eyes sharp despite her 70 years. "Heard about your run-in with Margaret," she said, her voice dry as autumn leaves. "Welcome to her kingdom." I recounted the fine, Jonah's tears, and my suspicion about the forest. Clara's expression darkened. "She's the queen of petty tyranny. That forest. She's after it for herself, not the HOA." Over coffee at her cozy farmhouse, Clara laid it out. Horizon was struggling financially, looking to offload assets. Margaret, she suspected, was negotiating to buy the forest for Hensley Harvest, planning to restrict access and build exclusive farm-stay cabins. Those cabins could rake in millions, Clara said, sliding me a folder of public land records. "Your campfire ban's just her first move to clear the way." Clara introduced me to Amos Reed, a black farmer who'd lived in Green Acres for 15 years. Amos, in his late 50s, had a quiet strength, his hands calloused from years of tending crops. We met in his barn, surrounded by hay bales and the scent of earth. "Margaret's been fining me for years," he said, pulling up a spreadsheet on his ancient laptop. "Tractor too loud, fence too rustic, crops too unkempt. I'm cited 3 times as often as her cronies." His data was damning. Minority and new residents faced violations at triple the rate of Margaret's allies. Worse, properties buried under fines often sold at a loss to shell companies tied to Hensley Harvest. "She's not just enforcing rules," Amos said, eyes hard. "She's forcing people out to buy cheap." The stories kept coming. At Clara's, we hosted a discreet meeting with other residents. Huddled in her living room over homemade cider, a teacher, Lila Gomez, shared how Margaret fined her for unaesthetic hay bales after she spoke against an HOA fee hike. "Those bales were there for years," Lila said, voice tight. "Suddenly, they're a violation." A widow, Sarah Nguyen, described citations for excessive wildflowers in her garden, despite neighbors' identical plots going untouched. A veteran, Tom Ellis, got fined for parking his tractor in his own driveway. Each tale painted the same picture. Margaret targeted anyone who didn't fit her vision of Green Acres newcomers, minorities, or anyone who dared question her. We formed a quiet coalition, meeting in barns, backyards, even a local feed store's stockroom. Amos set up a secure chat group, and within days, 25 households joined, sharing photos of violation notices and stories of harassment. I dug into Margaret's finances, using my logistics contacts to access business filings. Hensley Harvest looked prosperous, but it was a house of cards, over-leveraged with loans against her properties, likely to fund her lifestyle and acquisitions. The forest deal wasn't just greed, it was her financial lifeline. If it collapsed, so would she. I reached out to Leila Nguyen, a land broker with no love for Margaret, over coffee, 30 miles from Green Acres. She confirmed Horizon's desperation. They're bleeding cash, Lila said, stirring her latte. Margaret's offering $400,000 for the forest, but she's scrambling for investors. They've given her a 60-day exclusive window, but they'd jump at a cash offer. She leaned in, voice low. Her empire's smoke and mirrors. One wrong move, and her creditors will eat her alive. My mind raced. With my logistics fortune, I could outbid her, but I needed to play it smart. Our coalition grew, fueled by shared anger. Margaret's campfire ban was the tip of a rotten iceberg, and we were ready to crack it open. I started mapping out a plan, one that would use her own rules against her. But first, I needed to know exactly how deep her claws went into Green Acres and how to pull them out. They tried to bury us with fines, but I had a plan to turn their forest into my battlefield. Keep watching. Margaret Hensley thought she could douse my spirit with a $300 fine, but she'd only tossed kindling on a fire she couldn't control. As our coalition of Green Acres residents grew, I saw a path to not just fight back, but to burn her scheme to the ground. If you're watching this while hiding from your own HOA's nonsense, maybe in a hayloft or a tool shed, drop a comment with your spot. This chapter's about to spark some serious heat. Our secret chat group buzzed with stories of Margaret's tyranny. 25 households strong. We swapped photos of violation notices, non-compliant mailboxes, excessive garden gnomes, even improper tire tracks on driveways. Each was a petty jab, but together, they formed a pattern of harassment aimed at breaking us. Amos Reed's spreadsheets showed Margaret's fines hit newcomers and minorities hardest, driving some to sell their homes cheap, only for her shell companies to snatch them up. Her farm-to-table empire, Hensley Harvest, was built on our backs, and the 20-acre forest was her next conquest. My logistics fortune gave me the means to stop her, but timing was everything. I dug deeper into Margaret's finances, tapping old business contacts for dirt. Hensley Harvest was drowning in debt, multiple loans against her properties, likely to fund her glossy picnics and designer boots. The forest deal was her lifeline. Without it, her creditors would swarm. Leila Nguyen, my land broker ally, fed me gold. Horizon Land Group, the forest's owner, was desperate to sell for $400,000. Margaret had a 60-day exclusive negotiation window, but her financing was shaky, the patchwork of reluctant investors. Horizon needs cash yesterday, Leila said over a diner coffee, 40 miles from Green Acres. A better offer could steal it out from under her. I saw my shot. With $5 million from my logistics sale, I could outbid her with cash. No strings. But we needed to wait. Let Margaret commit to her plan, sink her reputation into it. Amos agreed during a late-night strategy session in his barn. 1. Let her announce her big forest preservation fee, he said, his voice steady. She'll overplay her hand, and we'll hit her where it hurts. Clara Thompson nodded, her surveyor's precision guiding us. The more she pushes, the more residents will join us when we pull the rug out. Margaret gave us plenty to work with. She announced a $75 monthly HOA assessment at the next meeting, claiming it was for forest preservation. Her PowerPoint, titled Green Acres Forever, showcased renderings of farmstay cabins, promising rural luxury to boost property values. She didn't mention that Hensley Harvest would profit from the development. Instead, she took shots at reckless newcomers like me, her eyes glinting as she spoke of preserving our community's character. When Amos stood to question the fee's necessity, she shut him down with a venomous jab. Mr. Reed, didn't you have a property tax issue a few years back? She said, voice dripping with mock concern. Perhaps focus on your own affairs. The room tensed. Amos's tax dispute was long resolved, but she framed him as a deadbeat. Her intimidation backfired. 3 more households joined our coalition that night. Meanwhile, I met Horizon's VP, Elena Cortez. In a nondescript office 50 miles away, Margaret's offering $400,000 over 2 years, Elena said, frustration creasing her brow. We're bleeding cash and need to close fast. I leaned forward. I'll give you $450. All cash. Closing in 5 days. Her eyes widened. That's a board mover. But Margaret's got local government pals. She won't go quietly. I smiled. I'm counting on it. Margaret turned up the heat. Violation notices flooded my mailbox. $100 for an unapproved fence. $150 for improper gravel. $50 for Jonah's bike left in the driveway. Clara got cited for a mailbox 2 inches too tall, and Lila Gomez for excessive compost bins. The pettiness was relentless, and it hit home hardest when Jonah came back from school in tears. Kids called me a troublemaker. He sobbed. They said we're ruining everything. I traced it to Margaret's ally, Karen Voss, who'd spread rumors to her daughter's friends. The fight was now personal, and I nearly listed the ranch for sale. Amos stopped me. She's done this to others, he said, voice firm. You leave. She wins. And Jonah learns bullies always do. He was right. Selling meant letting Margaret extinguish our fire, our connection to Eliza. I doubled down, coordinating with our coalition in secret rotating meeting spots to dodge Margaret's spies. We met in Tom Ellis's garage, Sarah Nguyen's kitchen, even a feed store's backroom. Each story of harassment fueled us. When I got word the forest's environmental assessment was clean, I knew we were close. Horizon's board was ready to sign. Margaret's days of ruling Green Acres were numbered, but she didn't know it yet. We just had to keep the embers low until the right moment to blaze. This fight's getting hot. Smash that subscribe button if your HOAs ever pulled a stunt like this. She thought she owned the forest until I dropped the deed. This reveal will leave you speechless. Margaret Hensley's smug reign over Green Acres was about to go up in flames, and I held the match. With the 20-acre forest now mine, her carefully laid plans were crumbling, and I was ready to light the fuse. If you're watching this from your pickup truck to escape another HOA power trip, comment your hideout below. This chapter's where the fire roars. Our coalition had grown to 28 households, a quiet army fed up with Margaret's fines and favoritism. Her $75 monthly forest preservation fee had sparked outrage, especially after her HOA meeting, where she unveiled glossy renderings of farmstay cabins. She sold it as a community win, but we knew the truth. Hensley Harvest would pocket millions while locking us out of the forest. Her jabs at disruptive newcomers like me only fueled our resolve. Amos Reed, Clara Thompson, and I had kept my forest purchase under wraps, using Warrick Holdings LLC to mask my name. The deal closed 3 days before Margaret's Harvest Gala, a lavish forest picnic for her loyalists, complete with bonfires, her hypocrisy on full display. I'd signed the papers with Horizon Land Group for $450. Zanon, outbidding Margaret's shaky $400 offer. Their VP, Elena Cortez, had warned me about Margaret's local government allies, but my attorney confirmed the forest was private property, free from HOA control once the lease expired in 25 days. Better yet, the HOAs neglect pesticide runoff from their fields poisoning the forest's streams gave me grounds to terminate the lease early. I hired a water quality expert, whose tests showed alarming nitrate levels, proving Margaret's environmental concerns were a sham. Everything was set for the gala, where I'd turn her victory lap into a public reckoning. Margaret's harassment hadn't let up. My ranch was hit with fines for unapproved barn paint, excessive firewood stacks, even Jonah's soccer ball left in the yard. Clara got cited for non-compliant garden stakes, and Amos for unaesthetic irrigation pipes. The worst came when Jonah, red-eyed from school, told me kids shunned him, parroting lies from Margaret's ally, Karen Voss, about us destroying property values. I wanted to storm Margaret's doorstep, but Clara's calm advice held me back. Wait for the gala, she said. Let her dig her own grave. The Harvest Gala was Margaret's stage. She'd rented string lights, catered farm-to-table dishes, and set up bonfires, ironic for someone who fined me for a single campfire. About 50 of her cronies mingled, sipping wine, while newer residents like me were conspicuously uninvited. I arrived with Amos, Clara, my attorney, and a sheriff's deputy I'd briefed. As Margaret raised a glass, toasting our forest's bright future, I stepped forward, grabbing her microphone. "Folks, there's a misunderstanding," I said, voice steady. "As the new owner of this 20-acre forest, I'm informing you you're trespassing on private land." The crowd froze. Margaret's face flushed crimson. "This is HOA property," she sputtered, lunging for the microphone. I held firm, raising the deed. It was Horizon's until I bought it 3 days ago. The HOA's lease ends in 25 days, but I'm terminating it now for maintenance violations. I nodded to the deputy. "You have 10 minutes to clear out." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Margaret's eyes darted, her composure cracking. "You can't do this. The community has rights." I smiled. "Check the lease, Margaret. Officer Daniels is here to ensure an orderly exit. You've always been big on rules, right?" The gala collapsed. Guests grabbed their wine glasses and fled, shooting Margaret accusing glares. She stood, stunned, as her bonfires were doused. I wasted no time. By morning, no trespassing signs lined the forest, and security cameras went up. I held a press conference with the local paper, announcing plans for Eliza's Grove, a youth ecology camp to teach kids sustainable farming and fire safety. I shared the water tests, exposing the HOA's environmental neglect. Nitrates and phosphates from their fields had choked the streams, stressing wildlife. "This forest deserves better," I told reporters. "We'll restore it for our kids." Margaret fought back, suing for community harm. But my deed and the expired lease crushed her case in court. She tried rallying the HOA with new fines against me: $200 for unapproved signage, $150 for excessive tree pruning. But residents were waking up. At the next meeting, Lila Gomez stood, voice shaking. Margaret spent $50 on a picnic area for her friends' farms while our trails rotted. Who's she really serving? The crowd murmured agreement. An audit motion passed, and whispers of Margaret's cabin scheme spread, turning her allies against her. Our coalition swelled to 35 households, and the tide was turning. Margaret Hensley's empire was crumbling, and the forest I'd wrested from her grasp was now Eliza's Grove, a beacon of hope for Green Acres. Her $300 fine for our campfire had sparked a rebellion, and as her lies unraveled, our community found its strength. If you're watching this from your porch swing, dodging another HOA sermon, comment your hideout below. This final chapter's about renewal, and it's gonna light up your screen. The Harvest Gala's collapse left Margaret scrambling. Her lawsuit against me for community harm was tossed out when my attorney presented the forest deed and proof of the HOA's expired lease. She tried weaponizing the HOA, issuing me fines for unapproved security cameras, $250, and excessive forest signage, $175. But her grip was slipping. Residents, learning of her plan to build private cabins with Hensley Harvest, turned on her. Lila Gomez's bold call for an audit at the HOA meeting had cracked the dam. The vote passed, and whispers of Margaret's financial misconduct spread like wildfire. Our coalition, now 40 households, kept the pressure on. Amos Reed's spreadsheets, documenting years of discriminatory fines, were shared anonymously on the community board. Sarah Nguyen posted photos of her excessive wildflowers next to Margaret's allies' untouched gardens, captioned, "Fairness." The audit uncovered a cesspool, $60, zeros, and diverted to a park upgrade serving only Margaret's cronies' farms, $20, and in consulting fees to a shell company tied to her brother. Residents demanded answers, and Margaret's allies began to fracture. Her desperation peaked one moonless night. My security cameras caught her and 2 HOA board members trespassing in Eliza's Grove, pouring a liquid from a vial into a stream where kids would fish. I sent the footage to the sheriff. Tests confirmed it was a pesticide, meant to fake pollution and discredit my conservation plans. Margaret was charged with criminal trespassing and environmental contamination. As she was processed, investigators dug into HOA finances, uncovering misappropriated funds, selective enforcement, and evidence she'd driven down property values to benefit her real estate deals. Civil lawsuits from targeted residents piled up, and Hensley Harvest teetered on bankruptcy. I saw my chance to reshape Green Acres. I invited all residents except current HOA leadership to a meeting at my ranch. Nearly every household showed. Packing my barn with folding chairs and hope, I laid out my vision: transfer Eliza's Grove to a community trust, but only under conditions. First, the HOA leadership had to be overhauled with term limits and transparent elections. Second, all regulations would be reviewed for fairness. Third, an ethics committee with rotating members would oversee decisions. Then I dropped a bombshell. Using my financial contacts, I said, I've purchased mortgage notes on 15% of Green Acres properties, including Margaret's. The crowd gasped. I'd worked with Amos's banking connections to buy the debt, focusing on Margaret's allies. I won't foreclose, I assured them, but I'll offer below-market refinancing after we fix this broken system. The vote to replace the HOA was unanimous. Margaret resigned in disgrace, facing criminal charges and lawsuits. Her ally, Karen Voss, quit the board after I announced free fishing and farming programs at Eliza's Grove for kids excluding HOA leaders' families until they stepped down. 2 more board members followed, citing personal reasons. Elena Vasquez, a nurse who'd called out Margaret's $50 Zerschosen picnic area scam, was elected president, promising transparency. She led a regulation overhaul, scrapping petty rules like maximum wildflower height. Margaret's final gambit was a smear campaign, claiming Eliza's Grove was a toxic dump. I countered with public water tests, showing cleaner streams than under HOA management, thanks to my restoration efforts. Her last stand came when she tried bribing Amos with a board position to sabotage me. Amos recorded it. I can erase your fines. Her voice crackled on tape. Just scare Warrick about environmental costs. Amos grinned, handing me the file. She forgot I've been documenting her for years. The recording sealed her fate, shared widely in our chat group. 6 months later, Jonah and I hosted a community campfire day at Eliza's Grove. Families gathered, kids roasting marshmallows, parents swapping stories across old divides. Jonah, beaming, taught a group how to build safe fire pits. Mom would love this, he said, his smile reaching his eyes for the first time since Eliza's passing. I nodded, feeling her warmth in the flames. The forest, once Margaret's prize, was now a sanctuary for all, legally protected by the community trust. Green Acres became a model for rural HOA reform, with neighboring communities adopting our ethics guidelines. Margaret fled town, her business gutted by lawsuits, her ranch sold at a loss, shunned by buyers wary of her toxic legacy. I was urged to run for county commissioner after the mayor, a Margaret ally, stepped down amid scrutiny, but I declined. Instead, I founded a scholarship in Eliza's name for kids who'd lost parents to illness, funding their dreams as she'd have wanted. As Jonah and I sat by the fire that evening, the stars above Eliza's Grove felt brighter. Justice wasn't about crushing Margaret. It was about rebuilding what she'd broken. We'd turned her ashes into a community reborn, proving that even the smallest spark, like a $300 fine, could ignite change. This journey's complete, but the fight's not over. Smash that subscribe button, hit the bell, and comment your HOA nightmares or dream revenge plans. Let's hear how you'd roast your own Margaret.